All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about scan to BIM, bringing the pieces together. Have a couple of introductions here on the next in the next second here, but I do want to mention that if you have any questions, we will have a Q&A at the end of the session. Feel free to type any questions you might have in the chat or the question and answer, and Jeff and I will address those at the end. Thank you everyone for being here today. Jeff, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everybody, welcome to the webinar today. My name is Jeff Landers. I am the team lead for ATG's reality capture team. I hope you enjoy what we're going to show you today.
And my name is Brian Weeks, architectural production lead, senior AEC technical specialist. Been in the business for 23 years in architecture and been at ATG now for 3 years. And what brought me to ATG was a program we have called Team Augmentation, which is where our team, whether it's reality capture or AEC, architectural, we have structural, civil, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, that can work with your company on your projects, whether it is scanning your projects or needing to model projects. We do it all at ATG. We just don't sell software. So that's what brought me here. And I'm excited to get to share with you all today about this project that Jeff and I worked on. I do want to mention before we get started, because we're going to be showing you a lot of reality capture. We're going to be showing you Revit and Enscape. And simultaneously zooming with this technology. And to do that, we are working exclusively on BIM boxes. These are workstations developed specifically for Revit. These are also available only through ATG. So if you have some questions, or maybe you want to see a demo of this product, definitely contact us, contact ATG. And we can have our sales rep in your area contact your firm and schedule a presentation. So today we're going to talk about a project that we worked on in Hawaii called Waterfalling Estate. Then Jeff will talk a little bit about reality capture, and then I will finish it up with talking about how we took the BIM model or created the BIM model from the point cloud that Jeff's team created. So our project was Waterfalling Estate in Hawaii. The client was an architect in Hawaii that their client hired them to remodel the residence. And of course, as you can see from the photos, it's a very large residence, 8,100 square feet. And we were, our project was to be sent, have our reality capture team sent out, scan the site and the building. You can see we have an Olympic-sized swimming pool, the residence itself, and then a tennis court, garage, a guest house there on the right side of the site. And then once we had the reality scan, then we pulled that in and modeled it. Now the client only paid for the LOD 200. So at the beginning of the presentation, when I start showing you the BIM model, I'm going to show you the BIM model as it was delivered, which was no materials, no furniture, just simple Revit out of the box, walls, doors, windows, etc. But then I'm also going to show you what I did in about half a day last week to add materials and kind of spruce up the project, just to show you what ATG is capable of for your projects, that you can hire us to not only scan and model, but also if you need renderings or construction drawings, we can become part of your team and become part of that process. So I'll turn it over to Jeff now and let him talk about reality capture.
As you can see the examples of several projects that we've done, including the Waterfalling Estates project here. I'll go ahead. If you want me to go ahead and show them that, okay. I'm going to share my.
Do we want to do that, or do you want to talk about the equipment and then show the recap? It's up to you.
Let's introduce the. Hold on a sec. Let's go ahead and introduce them to the equipment that was used so I can explain what we used here on this one and then go and show them that.
Perfect.
All right, so the equipment you see here, we'll start with the Build K2Go. It was used on this project, and I'll show you an example of that when we get into that. It is a very fast scanner. That is a big pro on it. You can go in, you can do this whole house in probably about 25 minutes. But the con of that is the accuracy, as you see below, is a 1/2 inch at 12 feet. So you give up a little bit there for the speed. The BLK 360 was also used on this project. This is a great little scanner. It's fast. It has a range of about 60 meters. And its accuracy level brings it into the sub-millimeter accuracies. So what I like to do is explain it as plus or minus a 32nd of an inch in 30 feet. The next scanner, the RTC 360, is also very fast for a stationary scanner. It has a range of about 300 meters and also some millimeter accuracies to it. It also has a register in the field process with it, so it really speeds up the after scan processing and such. The BLK 3D is just a little handheld unit. It uses photogrammetry to give small space measurements and planning. And that's the equipment. Again, the equipment used on this particular project was the BLK2Go and the BLK 360. Now let's go dive into it. Let's see. Can everybody see my screen? Can you see my screen, Brian? Okay. So this is the Waterfalling Estate in Hawaii. We'll zoom in here to give you a better picture. You can see this tennis court, swimming pool back here. The reason why you're seeing empty space is because the LiDAR is absorbed by the water. You can see that the helo pad's not up here yet. Really nice scan put together here. We'll go into a real view just to give you, this scan was done approximately 3 years ago, if I remember right. And the processes that we went through, the workflows at that time have been improved. And I'm going to show you that after we visit this estate. The picture clarity is not great here, but that's improved over time. But this is what we have. We can go in, we can kind of tour through the little mirror, what are called mirror balls. Visit the estate. You'll also notice, when I go back out, that we organize the scan in a way to where it could be viewed in parts. So we'll zoom on out. I can go ahead and turn off the exterior. Now we're seeing the interior of the building and the roof. I can turn off the roof, go in here. That's all the interior spaces. And then we can even take it down to where we're just looking at the first floor. And that's all of that organized data goes into the design software. So you can do the same thing there. To show you the difference in the scans inside of here, the BLK2Go uses these walks, is what they're called. Whereas the BLK 360 does the scan locations. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the whole first floor off before I just, let me go get in the first floor. Sorry about that. Go into the first floor. I'm going to turn everything off and just show you the difference. This is a walk. Point cloud, you'll see that you have pretty good density. And you can see that the scan is not really uniform. It's kind of what they call spaghetti, but you can still see everything in there. You can make out what's what for the most part. And so it gives you a good quality scan. And I mentioned the 1/2 inch accuracy earlier. The results we're seeing is better than that. All you gotta do is slow down with the scanner a little bit, you get more points and more accuracy. So that is a walk. And then this scan right here, we give you, this is what the BLK 360 stationary scanner brings in. You'll see that the point density and the ability to make out what everything is a lot greater. Again, this is at sub-millimeter accuracy. So we can go ahead and turn a couple more of these on, give you a better picture of this area. Let me turn that last one on. Okay. Let's see this. And so that was the scanning at Waterfalling Estates. I want to move on at this point and show you the improvements in the technology and the basically on the visuals of everything. So this is a project we've done currently in the process of doing, excuse me, and let her populate here. Thanks. So we
And while we're waiting, there was a question, and I'll go ahead and answer it. It's actually on our next presentation slide, but I'll go ahead and explain. Thomas asked, what camera did we use for the project? What scanner? So the scanning team on Waterfalling, they utilized the Phantom 4 Pro, the Leica RTC 360, and the Leica BLK to go. They took the BLK 360 as a backup, but it wasn't needed. And on the Waterfalling Estate, there was 111 setups. 9 of those 111 scans were the BLK to go walks. And all of the combined data for all the point cloud scans totaled 104 gigabytes. And then 22 gigabytes of photos that were taken by those scanners that rounded out that data collection on that particular project. Another question was, what was the density of scans or spacing or distance between the scans for those scans? I don't have that information, but Jeff probably has a rule of thumb that we typically use on spacing or distance between scans.
Okay, so on that point, everything is line of sight, so that has a big determination on the spacing. So if you're indoors and you're wanting to get good density scans of all the objects in there, you're going to move it around the room. You may be only moving it 5 feet to get some kind of data in certain places. And so that interior of a building, that is the deal. But we never go more than 15 feet apart in order to maintain accuracy. On the exterior of the building with the particular scanner that was used here, the BLK 360, we kept those within that 15-20 feet of each other, keeping in mind line of sight as we were gathering information on the outside of the building. And I can give you an example here on the spacing by going into Real View. And then you can see all of the scan locations here in this map. So you see some are close together and some are further apart. So these exterior scans are further apart, trying to get the data in the upper part of the project. So knowing the scanner, and then you take in the line of sight stuff, and generally we don't go more than 30 feet apart, even with the better scanners that we have today. Just wanted to show you the difference in the photos that are currently in our workflow. We're able to get a lot more clarity. You'll notice, if you remember, in the Waterfalling Estates, the sky was blacked out. Now we can see the sky, really get a good feel of what everything really looks like. And that's the main difference between the workflows that we have now and when waterfalling was done. Just the example I wanted to show you here. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Brian and let him continue with the waterfalling.
Sure. And let me, there was Russell had a question. How did you scan on this particular one that we were showing, I guess? How did you scan the upper floors of the exterior? I imagine moving camera 15 foot on ground floor, but is there best practice for upper floor scans?
So on the exterior of the building, all of these scans were taken with the RTC 360, which the range got us all the way to the upper floors on that. The interior of the building, which I didn't show you, just mainly uses a main stairwell that connects to all of them. And the scans were done within that line of sight that I was talking about before for scan locations so they can see each other, get overlap. And then the stairwell was used to establish levels inside the building.
Good questions. All right, and then just to kind of jump back to Thomas's question from before, here's the slide that comments on the setups and the cameras that we used on the previous project on the waterfalling. I don't know why this is over here. There we go. I can't move it. All right, it's going to stay there. Let's go ahead and go to the next and talk about BIM modeling from the point cloud. So what we do is when we get the recap model, and let me jump back real quick because this slide actually talks about the reality capture team will take this model, mesh it together, put everything together in a model for us, that a point cloud that you can then import into Revit. And so once we import that model into Revit, then our team that I had under me, where there were 3 of us, that we each took a separate section of the building, the Olympic sized swimming pool area, the residence, and then the tennis court with the guest house. And we each modeled in a single BIM 360 model. So we were all in the same model, sharing and creating the Revit model in that space. The topography was not part of the required SOW. I actually did this as a separate white paper later on after this project was completed. And if you want to find out more about that, go to ATG USA, Google for our white paper on topography. And so this was, I took the point cloud into Civil 3D and created a topography from that point cloud. So everything you're seeing in the Revit image below was from the point cloud. On the right, top right is a photo of the waterfalling estate itself. And then below is actually an image that I created, like I said, just last week. I spent a couple of hours adding materials to the project, just to the exterior, and adding some furniture and things, and to make it more realistic, just to show you the capability that that ATG offers, and also Enscape. So I'm going to show you both of those in Revit. So flip over to Revit. You see, Jeff, can you see that okay, or do I need to share a different screen? You see Revit?
Yeah, I see Revit.
Okay, perfect. All right. So this is our point cloud that we inserted into this project. I get questions a lot too about, where's the where was the project base point? And in this particular case, I set it to the far side corner of the first floor of the recap of the point cloud scan. And that's just personal preference. You can kind of set that base point wherever you want when you set these projects up, but it's always good as a project manager, project architect, if you're going to be working with these models, to get all your levels set up before you turn it over to your team. And that way you're all on the same page. So I went through and I had different levels set up for each of the pieces of this project that we were going to be modeling. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn off the point cloud and turn on the model. And again, the deliverable for this project, the client was just paying for the LOD 200. They didn't need materials, so and they didn't need specific doors or anything like that. Furniture didn't need to be modeled. So as you can see, we completed that part of the process. You can actually come in and walk around. So I'm going to do that real quick and just show you in Enscape, and I'm going to split screen. So we did model the interior. This is actually an elevator that was in the project inside the building that went out, found the manufacturer for, added that content. So we did model some of the content just because it related to the interior of the residence. I'm gonna turn my point cloud off over here so it's a little bit different. And then you can see we did have just some basic materials out of the box, Revit materials. We didn't have to do any of the millwork or counters. We did the stairs, and so you can kind of travel through the project. We also, master bedroom, had some specialized folding doors, so we can see those. If I go over here, I'll pull that up, hang on. So master bedroom. So we did try our best to model doors, windows, floors, locations, columns, etc. Just materials, furniture were not part of the project. The slide was very unique. We did some extrusions with that. Again, very basic. That's what the client was wanting us to do, so they could actually go in, start demoing interior walls, adding their own materials, tennis court. Very straightforward. So now let me show you kind of the wow factor of what, if we had done a little bit more on it, if we had been paid to get a little higher quality. Let me show you what could have been. And like I said, I spent a couple of hours on this last week, just kind of in preparation for this town hall. Adding materials in Revit, rendering, making it look realistic in Enscape is fun. That's like one of the fun parts of the job that as architects that we get to do, is to make cool looking projects, of course. And then when we do those renderings with Enscape or some other rendering tool, being able to give that to our client and show off that, show off their design and have them approve that design is definitely fun and a plus. And with Enscape, it makes it really easy to do because you can change materials on the fly with your clients. So if you're not using Enscape, definitely advise you to look into it. I'm going to go ahead again. I'm going to split screen. With my Enscape over here, which model? It's still showing the previous model. Sorry, I guess I just got an alert that I cut out there for a second.
Yeah. And
sorry
Brian,
about that.
There's a question up that I'd like you to answer. Is, were you able to use the scanner to create the background in Enscape?
So if you're talking about the image that was in the background in Enscape, I actually went to, Google has a really cool feature that lets you actually extract panoramic 360s from your site, depending on if it's a road or not. So sometimes that works if you're next to a major highway or a major road where Google cars travel, and I'm able to do that in Enscape and take that skybox and insert it. But other times, such as this, because it is kind of unique that it was on a hillside, I didn't have a Google image of that particular location. So what I had to do is I went out and I actually found some Hawaii cliffside 360s. And let me show you that. So basically you can come in and Enscape, add it to as a skybox. And so you can kind of get that cool. So when you do renderings, there's kind of a, it's not exactly the way it looks out there, but it's really close. So I love being able to do that, especially with this project. It was really fun to kind of get some of these Enscape trees down here. They kind of move. As I move, they move. And the really cool thing too with Enscape is that if I create a video, such as the water moving, the trees moving, you can even see the grass kind of waving. Really cool feature in Enscape. So when you do a video walkthrough through Enscape, it actually does that. It's going to animate those objects. So now I'm just kind of flying around, showing you kind of this process of when I added the materials to the project. Anything you add material wise to your Revit model as a material is going to be rendered and show up in Enscape. And that's a really cool feature that I really like about Enscape, is that I'm not having to double up on my materials. I can add them in Revit, any kind of families, any materials I modify, any edits, all is live. So it's all occurring within my Revit model, but it's also occurring within Enscape. Enscape also has a really nice feature. I'm going to come down here because I like showing this view here, is that I can change the time of day. Now, I do want to clarify with this particular skybox, I didn't go into a lot of setup on it. So this picture I used doesn't work with the time change because it's not a transparent skybox. So for this demonstration, I'm going to switch back to my out of the box setting for mountains. But I do want to show you a really cool thing with, so these are some live shots of, or not live, sorry, some photos of waterfalling. But just in Enscape, I can actually modify my time setting.
This question came up again.
Perfect.
And actually, I had the same question with the technology we have now and the better photogrammetry that's coming with the scanner. Would you have been able to create your Enscape background from those photos?
I don't see why not. I mean, all it requires is a 360. It's like a 360. It's called, it's a skybox. It looks like a T shape. Mm-hmm. And what the program does is wrap it. So yeah, I mean, if you had a 360 drone image, I don't see why there's not any reason you couldn't take that image, crop it into the skybox shape, and then use it as a skybox. I've never done it, just time-wise, of course. How much time do you want to spend on it? If we're just doing some quick renderings for a client, I don't want to bill them for, hey, I'm going to create a realistic skybox. Of course, that is cool. That's a cool feature because, hey, there's your actual site. So it's definitely possible, because it's just in Enscape, it's just a setting for your sky that you tell it what what the image is that you're going to use. So I don't see why you couldn't.
Yeah.
I was showing off the lighting too. These are lighting elements that are in the Revit model, not Enscape. So any lighting, if it has any of the lighting settings, i.e. the IED, lumens, and all those settings that come with lights, sometimes if your Revit family has those settings in it, then Enscape will render with those lights.
And Brian, there's another question up, and I'm really curious of what your answer is going to be on this. Uh, what is your turnaround time from converting a point cloud model to a Revit model?
No, that's a great question. So it's really going to depend on the size of your project and how many people we assign to it. So this particular project, I had 3 people counting myself that were on the team working on this project. And we went from point cloud to Revit model in like 4.5 days that we were then able to deliver to the client. Of course, that was LOD 200. If you're going to be asking for materials and finishes and things, you could add another day or so to that timeline. But it's it's possible, depending on the team members we add to the project, to do it in 5 days. Again, size of the project, complexity. Can you govern best practices for starting with the point cloud of Revit and first steps for adding Revit walls and floors? So again, I'll let's see, go back to Revit best practices. Always start with your before you pull the point cloud in, or before you start modeling and you pull the point cloud in, make sure that your base point is at a point that you want it to be, if that makes sense. I mean, my best practice is I typically will set my base point at the corner of the building that I'm going to be modeling. Okay, I hate it when it does this. It changed all my settings here, but that's fine. So like if I go in here to first floor residence, and it's kind of, as project manager, project architect, it's going to be, again, determine where you want your base point to be, your project base point. And in this case, I set it at our first floor and center of this column. And so if you go in and I were to go in and turn on this point cloud, you can see where I kind of have to zoom in and out because it's kind of it's a live region of the point cloud. I mean, you can see the furniture that's been scanned, but you can also see my column. Also with practice comes learning what the actual wall type, where the wall is, because a lot of time, and Jeff can maybe talk a little bit about that, you'll get reflectivity off of the scan. So you'll have these elements out here, these ghosting elements, and having this plus your recap and being able to see the images and your model, it kind of goes, and your reality capture scan, the point cloud, they kind of go hand in hand. You have to have a look at both. So anyway, I digress. Back to the base point, project point. I'll typically start at my first floor. I'll set up my grids before I start going. If I can tell where my columns are, I'll kind of set those up. And this is all before, as project architect, this is before I hand it to my team. I will also go in and set up my levels, making sure that those are set up correctly is of course a big difference to productivity, and making sure that once your team jumps on it, you're using them to their peak efficiency to make sure that, hey, you're going to work on the pool, I've got your levels set up, start modeling, so on and so forth, having those levels set up. Yes,
Brian, while you're in this view, would you go into visibility settings and expand the point cloud tree? I want just something I want everybody to see here. If you'll notice,
oh yeah,
that this is view specific. It's designed to be less stressful on Revit, so you can turn off and on scans. So like when you're setting up these levels, you can get rid of the exterior and other stuff so that you can see into the point cloud a lot easier to set these levels up.
no, great point for sure. It's having our reality capture team, when they do their scans and they set up this prep for your model, whether we're going to work on it or your firm is going to work on it yourself, having this set up at the beginning, definitely, yeah, this is a huge deal to have this set up properly, having that experience to be able to set those up. Let's see, did you include structural MEP? No, Thomas, this particular project, the architect just wanted the property and the building itself, let's say. I'm sure we actually contacted him, but we weren't able to get him involved with this presentation because of his time availability. So we wanted to have him involved in this to talk about it and give his perspective of it, of course, because I'm sure what his process was. He's a fairly large residential architect there in Hawaii. I'm sure he went in, did his remodel, materials, so on and so forth, working with the client. And they may have brought in, I'm sure he brought in MEP after that fact, but we did not have those in the model. What are the VG settings through for the layering of the point cloud? Well, these VG settings are actually set up. These are scan locations that Jeff's team, once they scan for the individual floors and everything, this refers back to what Jeff showed us earlier with the recap layers, basically being, am I using that term correctly, Jeff? The layers being able to, or the walks he was talking about, of being able to assign specific recap scans to these walks, which then as these get imported, I didn't have to create any of this in Revit. I just imported the team's model, the point cloud, and these scan locations were already set up inside of it by Jeff's team. No, great questions.
I want to go back to the one question about whether if the origin point was set to longitude, latitude, stuff like that. Normally in the vertical world, we use a fictitious origin. Those origins can be put to specific coordinates in the real world after the scan is done, if there are some known points to do that. But normally in the vertical world, because the engineers, architects like to set that stuff up themselves, we leave that as a fictitious 000, so they can put it into their template or into their project wherever they want it to be.
Do you process your scans in Cyclone Register 360 or Recap, or both?
Because we have pre-registration technology now, it's the registration is done to the field, in the field, excuse me, is run into Cyclone Register 360, and we proof it there. And then it is exported out as an RCP with scan locations, because Recap gives us the ability to do that organization that you're seeing that Brian's using in his design. And we're also using it in the Recap viewer so that you can see it the same way, both in Recap and in Revit. Hope that answers that question.
Does the point cloud reference north?
Okay, again, we can orient it to the project north if the firm wants us to do that, but we mainly leave it up to them on what they're going to, of which part of the point cloud they're going to do it project north.
But if you pay us to do it, my team, this is set up to true north. We took the recap model, inserted it, and it is true north. So if you're to go in and look at, I was going to try to pull up. Overhead of the site, we're making sure that that you're, now this is from Google, and of course I'm in true north. There you go. So just good practice as a project architect, project manager, that if you're not going to have us do that work and you're just paying us to, do the reality capture, we do that. That's fine. You can hire us to do the AEC part of it as well and create the as-built model for you, or how, whatever you need us to do. That's just good practice. So if you do get the reality capture model from our team, definitely project manager, project architect, make sure you've set it up, true north, project north, base point, so on and so forth.
And there's a question about the RTC 360 and its ability to capture GPS data. It currently does not capture GPS, or it has to be inserted into the either into the point cloud or done later once it's into Revit. Any known points can be added to it to insert it in the real global location that it's in. And then there's one here about scaling. Really lucky on that with the workflow we do, either out of Cyclone as the Leica point cloud, or as a recap point cloud. When inserted into Revit, it is automatically scaled to the project itself. So if you're changing things inside of Revit, it's going to change and give you the scaling is going to be right. And in the AutoCAD world, as long as your insertion is set 1-to-1, it'll also come into scale.
Two questions. One is in the question answer from John. How do the scanners do with existing mechanical rooms and other MEP items?
Yeah, it's just like in any environment, line of sight. You can take the scanner in a mechanical room, position your scans. What we try to do is get 60 to 80% of any pipe that's in there, so it's easily recognizable. You're going to have the photos and see what everything is. And the reverse engineering in your design is where you're going to be able to find pipes, pipe sizes, all of that is going to be in there. They work really well in mechanical, and the mechanical folks that I have talked to are really impressed with their ability to model more accurately than they ever have before with the point cloud.
Okay, couple questions coming in. Let's see, Nate, it appears we modeled this orthogonally. Have you been tasked to model based on real life conditions where walls are not orthogonal? If yes, to use a different workflow than tracing over the scan. Yes, because you're technically still tracing over the scan, but you have to, and we did have to go through this with this project, because not all of these parts that we separated were, of course, perpendicular or nor parallel to each other. And so when I divided up the project, I made sure that we separated the, here, let me get to my site here, my overall, we separated these up into 3 different areas. So when as views, so when my team started working on it, I had my overall site set up, true north, project north. But then when we started our individuals working on the pool, the house, and the tennis court guest house, of course, the walls are orthogonal, but they didn't lay out orthogonally to the rest of the site. So what we did is we had reference planes that we drew along those walls, that way we could make those, draw that correctly. Now, in the sense of, is there a wall that was built as an as-built that is no longer true or plumb? That happens. That's a design design issue, that if the wall does have a slight curvature or anything to it, we do try to match that based on, we of course will talk to the client, the architect, how they want that to be modeled, because you can get into some issues with trying to, if you're modeling a curved wall, even if it's just a slight curve to match the scan, because the wall's bulging, the brick is, starting to, sag, or whatever the issues with as-builts. It's case by case basis on how we model that, whether it's a reference plane or a slight curvature. Thankfully, Revit 2022 now has the feature where you can actually tilt, you can actually slope your wall, tilt your wall if you need to. So if that's happening, of course, that's not a good thing. But if you want it to be modeled exactly as the wall's leaning out, we can definitely do that as well. So no, that's a great question. It's project by project basis. Is there a way to compare a 3D model created separately from the Revit model that you would make from this point cloud? That's from Erickson. I don't understand. Is there a way to compare a 3D model created separately from the Revit model that you would make from this point cloud? Maybe you're referring to trying to take the point cloud and rather than do it in Revit, do it in a separate 3D program. Maybe I need some clarification on that.
Yeah.
Do you use any automated modeling programs to speed up the modeling process? Not necessarily. Now I know, this is something for another day. We do offer, ATG offers CTC tools, which are some productivity tools that we use, can help with especially setting up levels in a project, some batch processing that can help us very quickly do some common everyday tasks. But when it comes to actually modeling itself, we don't have any automated, Dynamo. I know there's some Dynamo scripts out there that can automate some things, but when you're doing recap and point cloud modeling, it's super important to make sure that, that you do take your time to kind of model that process, make sure that the walls are where they are supposed to be. So you kind of don't want to speed up the process too much, because then you lose some of the data, utilizing the data from the point cloud into the 3D model.
I'd like to expand on that answer. There are some softwares being offered, and we tested some of them that do the automated Revit pieces. Clear Edges is one of those. And what we found in the end, that a skilled Revit user can usually match the same time that it's doing the automated stuff. Granted, you're not sitting in front of the computer, but it also, like materials, everything comes out of the generic piece to the model. So you're spending a lot of time after it's inserted into the project, changing those walls over to what they really are and all that. So we found that though they're great, they do a pretty decent job. Still a skilled Revit user can usually trace it and match it for design quicker than you can with what's available right now on the automated tools.
And I'm scrolling through here to make sure we didn't miss any questions. So Erickson clarified, if a brownfield factory was designed in a 3D model, could you compare an as-built model to check for interferences? I think just depending on what type that 3D model is, that you could just insert it into, if you're doing it in Revit or some other modeling program that you link that point cloud into. I mean, you could pull it in and manually check. I think maybe he's asking Jeff if there's any tools that let you check point clouds against models. Yeah. I don't know of any, but you've done this longer than I have.
Yeah, you have one of them opened up right there that you could do that with. Just like you said, it's a manually visual type thing. Point cloud can actually go into Navisworks and
Yeah.
if you can do that and do collisions for you still, depending on the filters and everything you set. One of the common things is during the construction process is to have scans done during that whole process and lay them over the Revit model just to see how accurately the building's being built compared to the model. So yes, it is a good comparison tool from what's really there to what was modeled. So
Yeah, and actually, Juan, thank you. He actually just helped you answer that as well. At the same time, Navisworks can compare model for clashes. So
Yeah.
perfect. Excuse me.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me, great questions, everyone. I appreciate everyone coming in today. We still got a couple more minutes if you want to ask some more questions before we do close out. I do want to just let everyone know that this video will be posted on our YouTube channel. We also have LinkedIn as well, so you can get access to white papers and blogs and webinars, especially with LinkedIn. We have activities happening every week. We have presentations almost every day of the week by our various technical personnel. Can you please add your emails to the chat? How do we want to do that, Jeff? Do we want, because we're not the salespeople technically, we're the production side. And so what you could do is go to atgusa.com and let me see here.
I want to answer this last, but do you work on industrial
for sure.
project or just only residential? That's a great question. I tell you what, you put it in front of us, we will work on it. So whether that's industrial, residential, commercial, mechanical, electrical, any kind of projects, between the reality capture team and our team AUG, we have the folks that can take care of your project.
And so if you go to atgusa.com services, we offer a bunch of different ones. If you're, interested in reality first with some, modeling at the end, go ahead and click on the reality capture first, because that'll be your first step. You can meet some of the team and then scroll down. This is how you need to get in touch with us. That way we can make sure it's in the system, and then the appropriate sales from ATG will get in touch with you and then start setting up the process for any questions you might have. And if you're just wanting any kind of additional services done that doesn't do with reality, maybe you just need help with construction documents, or you have a timeline on production, we have a large team of AEC professionals with lots of experience, years and years and years of experience. So again, go to the webpage, atgusa.com, type it in, tell us what you're looking for, and we can definitely be in touch. Another question from Kevin: what was the fee to scan for that? That's a great question. I do not recall. Let me give me a second here. I can pull it up.
Yeah. And
this is, of course, it's project by project. I don't know if I can give you the exact fee, but I can give you a roundabout. Yeah, I want to note to that what he just said. Different projects take different amount of time to do. Let's just put it this way: if you got a great big warehouse with nothing in it, and it can be 250,000 square feet, we can go in there and scan that in about an hour, because line of sight, we can see everything from just a few scan positions. Or if we go into an office building that has long corridors and lots of offices in it, it increases the amount of scans that have to be taken for that project to get the data that you need. So we do these project by project specifics. I know this project here in today's numbers would probably, I'm not going to throw travel in there, probably a couple of days. So around $3,500 to $4,000 for that. Plus whatever travel arrangements have to be made for your project. Yeah, I can't find it. It is just going to depend on project by project, because we've done so many of these scans as well. Definitely just get in touch with us. Typically it's a if you're doing just a scan, that's a fee. And if you're doing modeling, that's a fee. And then we'll combine those. We work with you. We work with your firm on what you're looking for, timeline, so on and so forth. So
And I will mention, we work with a lot of different architects all over the country. A lot of them, when they're having to go create basically their own as-built for the building conditions, they usually have a budget for that. And we're finding that their budget usually covers what it costs to get this information collected through LiDAR scanning. So, and much of the time, most of the time, faster than what they can go do with their normal hand measure and the picture taking and all that you normally would do to get that information.
All right, well, we're hitting up on time here. I appreciate everyone joining us today. Again, be sure to go to atgusa.com for more information. Check out our LinkedIn and our YouTube. If you saw any of the products that we offer today, BIM box, any of the CTC tools, Enscape, maybe you need to renew your licensing, definitely give us a call or an email, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you, Jeff, for joining me today. And everyone have a great Wednesday.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out some of the other content on our channel.